Hello and welcome to this playthrough of Factorio, where I am building a megabase on Earth. I am using a mod, Cities of Earth, focusing on the Old World Hemisphere. My goal is to reach 10,000 science per minute with a rail-based design. The resources are set to maximum size and density, and biters and pollution are turned off. The mod list is shown in the description, as well as a link to my Twitch channel, High Speed. Please come visit me there. Questions and comments are welcome. Thank you for watching. Yeah, there we go. Now, for this, I moved all those so that I could move all these. Missed it by that much. So you'll get all this built. You'll get all that built. Whew, this is going to be challenging. Good luck. That's not going to line up very well there. But you're going to get that built. I don't know that I need much more to get that built there. Let's see. If that were moved down one and those were on the other one, I'd have what I want there. Sure, why not? Birthday, thank you. Welcome. Did I get it right? How close was I? 80% right? 10%? Oh, I can't pronounce the whole name. Let's see. We'll do it in pieces. I've got Rabulte Gulumabaruk. It's a great freaking name. Let me tell you. You have one of those. You have one of those names that, like, if you were at a special event, where they announce people who've arrived to the ballroom. It and now you're in ads. Oh, timing. The hardest part about comedy is timing. All right. So if this was here, you wouldn't be able to build those. Ay, ay, ay. So Rebulte is how I was pronouncing the first name. So I was saying that your name is one of those really elegant names, like if you were arriving in a ballroom and they announced your name, it'd be like, and now Rebulte Gulumabaru, sir. Haven't grown into that self confidence yet, huh? You'll get there. You'll get there. All right. All right, how's power coverage? Look over here. Absolutely zilchoid. I don't really have the flexibility to move stuff around here, but I need to get a RoboPort in here so I can get construction working. So it's likely that it's going to happen here. Credence. Yeah, streaming itself. Once I hit the start streaming button, it's easy because I'm just here and you're here, and it makes it easy. But streaming itself, up till pushing that button, is hard. Um, because you got to get yourself into the right mindset, the right psyche, and that's sometimes that's really hard. Some days it is really hard to push that button. Well, yeah, there's a couple things I did there. And it's not easy to develop an audience either. It's about the consistency of being there. But what I did was, before I started streaming, I joined other people's streams and I chatted them up. I talked to in chat. If you're trying to build an audience, the best way to go is to interact with an existing audience. I looked at it from the perspective of if I were a street performer, because that's what I am. And Penn and Teller, Penn, the taller guy of the two, the comedians, magicians, he said that he used to be equivalent to a carnival barker, is he would go out to street corners where he was performing that night, and he would talk to people on the street and engage them and interact with them and stuff like that. And that was how he would get people to come to see him when he performed. And to a certain extent, that's what streaming is like, is you have to be a carnival barker. You have to be willing to go out and sell what you're selling to build an audience. And that means that I went to other Twitch channels and made myself a regular, and I continue to do it. I have 6 streams open at any given time. Yes, I'm a carny. I am definitely a freak. I am definitely that. Yes, and Derek and Amanda. I heart them so much. But I look, there are people who are playing games that I don't really play, but I watch them because they're interesting. And I also have a sanctuary open. I have Alvea's sanctuary open all the time. Um, because I get to watch these animals move around and it's nice. Oh, I don't self promote though, Volte. I don't talk about my stream. I'm just in there chatting with people and they see my name. And then when they're looking for a stream, they'll see my name. If somebody asks me, what do you do? Oh, I stream Cities of Earth. Oh, what's that? Oh, well, that's a mod I wrote. And, at that point, I am self promoting, but I've been invited to do so. I just read books. I just followed the instructions. This is what people told me to do, so I did it, and it works. Which is probably why they told me to do it. All right. I think I have this. So let's get this blueprinted. Not quite. Yes. Little taxing. Little taxing. So we don't want any of these in here, and we don't want any of the wood boxes in here. Or landfill. I'd love to be able to get rid of these, but I can't select closely enough. Looks like I have some stuff up here I don't want. What are those? Looks like I grabbed too much. I don't know. I can't zoom and all that other stuff on this that I need to. Well, it is a learned skill. I came into this with I like to play video games and I like to talk, and the primary impetus for me to stream was to share what I was doing and to get feedback. Now, part of that is I'm trying to entertain, but that's not primarily why I'm trying to do this. What I'm trying to do is learn and improve. And a great way to do that is to get other people to tell you what they think. And if you care about what they think, they're going to give you good advice. And I mean, I've written mods on screen with other people. Oops, I want that. I don't want the modules. I don't think I want the train stop names. I think I need these, because without those, some things won't connect. And I want the rocket silos just because I want them. And I don't actually have rocket silos being made. Interesting. All right, I will be back in just a moment, and then we'll start building some roboports. Hello. Thank you for being here. Had to take a quick break. Harassment. Let me know if you have any questions about the blueprints, harassment. Squirrel shit, that is Vibrant Trains. You can hit exclamation point mods, get a list and a link to all the mods that I use, or most of them. Zinder. Thank you for the resub. That's very kind of you. You must have run out of power pulse? Oh, okay. You did not run out of power pulse. Yes, some builders. So this will be interesting. I wonder what's going to happen here. So obviously I can have... Oh, let's see. It's not Moustache. Who has... Roboports? Bum? Yes, Bum has my Roboports. They're there. Thank you, Bum. I think I'm going to need more, though. No, that's a static train for building walls. If I had biters, this train would build the walls. My wall defense blueprints, like this one, they use blue belt or yellow belts, and my walls, this design uses a yellow belt. So there's no need to have anything more than a yellow belt for wall defense, in my opinion. These trains are generic to the other stuff that I do in the game. So if I put some roboports in here, they aren't going to go for it. They're jerks. I'm intentionally playing with this. I'm intentionally fiddling here. You're expecting I was going to just charge forward and get it all built. That's not my plan. Mucky is the hero of the day because he has bunches of combats. There they go. It's happening. How much RAM do you use in your build? Task manager. Processes. Factorio is using 10,000 megabytes, which this PC has 63 gig, 64 gig, so. So Factorio uses about 10 gig. Mostly because I keep exploring the map, which makes the map save file, which is like up to 300 meg or something like that now. The whole PC is, yeah, 7900 or 7800 X3 CD QR LG, whatever. So first, we're going to let it build. I don't think this is a good idea. I think what I'm going to do is run them along here, because this is the construction route, if you will. Because there's not going to be any power for this, and it's going to fail. Because these don't have power for some reason. I mean, not for some reason. Hi, Bob. How do I get rid of it so it doesn't back up? Well, lube gets, like, well, it comes before lube, Bob. The answer to your question is pre-lube, you track, and I'll show you in a moment once I solve this power pole problem I've got going on here. Pre-lube, you track how much red you have. You put a pump on your lube storage tank, and if your lube storage tank is above a certain level of full, then you start cracking heavy oil into light oil. You should be able to reach that. So we're going to leave you alone for a little while. Yes, Narosto, I just started using Spotify a few days ago. The playlist, I think I have it playlist pinned in my Discord. Bob, to answer your question. So here is a satellite build. Satellites, no. Yeah, this is a research build. This research build requires flying robot frames. Flying robot frames require electric engines. Electric engines require lube. So here's the lube feed. But way above that lube feed here in my cracking setup, so I've got my refineries over here, and they come over to this place, and I have this set up differently than most people would, but it's space efficient but not equipment efficient. So I have a tank that tells me how much red oil, heavy oil I have, and light oil, and how much lube. So I run a wire from the lube tank to the pump. So it's these four pumps are controlled by the connection to this tank. And so what I'm asking these pumps to do is only work when this tank is full. So I think the settings on this are something like 15,000 or 20,000, Bob. So when this tank has got enough lube in it, then it goes ahead and cracks it down to yellow, and then of course the yellow goes through the cycle. Well, it's not Blackie. It's this is the first circuit that I learned, and it's not. I didn't even realize it was a circuit at the time that I learned it, because the guy who taught me how to do it, darn it, I'm forgetting his name right now, but I appreciate what he did quite a bit. Anyways, I'll find it later. But there's two elements to it that you wanna consider. And the first is cracking red to yellow, and the second is cracking yellow to gas. And for that, you need 2 tanks and 2 pumps, one for each. Right, so, oh good, this worked. They're going to keep building. So while they build, I'll explain that to you. And actually, what I'll do is I'll go back here and I'll actually, well, I don't even have to go somewhere to build it. I think I've got all the stuff to build it right here. I can just show you. Yeah, there it is. So here's an oil refinery. And I should have the stuff to make wires. Nope, I don't. Okay, so I'm going to have to go back. So, sorry. Why do I still have 25 of you? Get out. So, Blackie, it's not a matter of being dumb. It's a matter of knowledge. Ignorance and stupidity are very different. Ignorance is okay. Stupidity is doing the same thing wrong. When the light oil and petrol consumption dries up, how do you keep frames running? Frames. Flying robot frames. Well, you see... This layout here is a little more straightforward and should be easier for you to follow, or is pretty straightforward, but so I'll do a simple build here, and I'll walk you through it so that it's not overly complex. But Bob, the concept is the same, right? It won't matter. Because it's going to naturally happen. So let's say you have one factory that builds everything. Plastic and the others are going to take the petroleum gas. Rocket fuel is going to take the light oil. And it will take, those two things will take them, pretty much forever. And then electric engines are going to take the lube, and then the heavy oil is going to get cracked into the other stuff. So let me have the stuff so that I can do these things, and then I'll be able to show you what I'm talking about. So, here's a refinery. Perfect. And here's a chemical plant. And then here's a tank. Actually tilted my head as I ran there. And then I need 2 pumps. So we'll go up here where the oil and the water are. That's what's going to matter. And then I need to make a couple of wires. So it's normal. So the basic issue, I normally have called you super careful to balance out your oil consumption across multiple sources. No, you don't have to be super careful. I just put two tanks and two pumps. That's all I do. So you have I need pipes up the wazoo. Okay. Assuming we're at advanced oil, because that's the important part. And also assuming that we have an offshore pump. So now we have a fully functional thing. It's going to spit out like 40 of this, 55 of this, 45 of this, and 25 of that. Right? So now this thing is full. So you have, we're just going to put down here 2 crackers and a consumer, although you have more consumers than that. So we have lube, we have red to yellow, we have yellow to light. We have solid fuel, which is what gets your rocket fuel. And we have plastic. Those are your primary consumers, right? So what you do is you put down a couple of tanks, one for red and one for yellow. And you could do this with 3 tanks. Depending. Actually, this is probably better to do it the other way. It'd be clearer if I did it this way. So let's just look at lube. So when we have red oil, what matters about red oil is when do we start taking away the red oil and using it? When do we start taking away the heavy oil and converting it into yellow oil? And what matters is how much lube do we have stored. And so if you tell this to only run when you've already got enough lube stored, so what you do is instead of letting this run infinitely, is you run a wire from here to here. Now that wire is going to have on it a value. And so what we want to say is that you can only run if we have more than or equal to 20,000 green in there. So now it says disabled by control behavior. So that's cutting. If you don't do this, you're going to run out of red oil and then you can't make lube. So this is allowing you to have enough lube to run your factory. Now, the next part of it is what do you do with all the yellow oil? Right? Now, this is a personal choice on how you measure. All right, so we've measured the desired substance and we've cut off the common substance from conversion by looking at the desired substance. Yeah, that's correct. And this is blocked out now because I've not let it run. So now it'll do some stuff. So now we get some of this, and you see there's fluid in this pipe, but this is not working because it's not getting any because this is disabled. Because we don't have 20,000. Thanks, Sergeant. But Blackie, here's the big concept. I have chosen a substance to measure against, and I have chosen a way to control the conversion of the source substance, right? So I've said, if I have enough lube, then I will allow cracking of heavy to light. Now this tank isn't necessary, I'm just putting it here for illustration purposes. Now, the same concept comes from cracking light oil to petroleum. So I'm going to get petroleum out of here, and I'm going to get light oil out of here. Now I'm also going to get light oil out of here. So if you design this so that these things come together, but they have to go through a tank, because you need something to measure and something to control. So you have a measure and you have a control. Now, when it comes to yellow oil, how much do you want to crack? What's your decision criteria? Well, I only want to crack yellow oil when I only want to crack yellow oil into petroleum gas when, and it depends on what your factory is doing. If your factory is primarily producing chips and sulfur and things that use petroleum gas, then you want your extra yellow oil to convert to petroleum gas because that's what you want to measure. But if your factory is making rocket fuel, you need to have a huge reserve of yellow oil in order to satisfy the rocket fuel. And which one is a priority? So you decide, which one am I going to take away from, or which one am I going to supply to? Okay? So in this case, I'll take the simplest choice, which is to say, I will crack yellow oil into petroleum gas when I have too much yellow oil. So that means that I am going to take a wire and I'm going to run it from this pump to this tank. And I'm going to say, you are enabled when yellow oil exceeds 20,000, because the tank holds 25,000. So when this is 90% full, then this will activate. Now, by connecting these two, this is connected to here and this is connected to here. That's kind of important. It puts these into a common pool, right? That matters, because if I just ran this directly in here and didn't connect these two, if this didn't exist, well, then the only place this cracking is going to happen is there, and then I would get a backup. So it's important that your yellow oil all come to a common place for measuring, even the stuff coming out of the cracking. So when you're backed up on plastic and sulfur, let's work through that, Bob. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. So you've got plastic and you've got sulfur, and I think those are the only ones that use that directly. Yeah, I think so. You can also, Bob, you can set that to make solid fuel. It's not as efficient, but if you need solid fuel in your build, you can then essentially turn petroleum into rocket fuel, right? Or solid fuel then into rocket fuel, which you need the yellow for, which is why it's important to tag off of yellow and not off petroleum. But if you look at this, Bob, you see that this thing is full and this thing is full. So they're both stopped up, but it's because the base isn't consuming anything. Right? So the question, I think I just answered your question, is what do you do to burn off petroleum gas so that your stuff doesn't stop working? And the answer is turn it into solid fuel. And if that's not a problem, then what are you stuck on? Because that's the only other problem you can have, right? Where else can your fuels be? Sure, they're stopped up, but it's because they're not consuming. So, this is complaining because it's got too much light oil. Well, you would use it for solid fuel and then use it for rocket fuel. Because if your factory is producing all this stuff, then you're consuming it. So this particular factory of mine doesn't make rocket fuel, really. This is the one that makes rocket fuel. And you can see here, to solve that problem, Bob, what I did is I have 77 solid fuels from light oil and a spare 11 from petroleum. So this thing has produced 60,000 products, and this thing has produced 66,000 products. And when we go down here, there's 47,000, 44,000, 39,000, 30,000, 19,000, and 10,000. So across all of these, I've got several 100,000 products created. And across all of these, I don't. So if your oil is getting borked, yeah, you must be doing something. You must have something out of, you must have done something such that you don't have a continuous consumption of a material. And I think you might be measuring the wrong thing when it comes to cracking. So I would recommend that you re-review your pump and tank settings. Because if you're converting extra petroleum gas into solid fuel, and your solid fuel is being converted into rocket fuel, and your rocket fuel is being used to build satellites and launch rockets, then you have a never-ending consumption of light oil and petroleum gas. Because that's what they would use. Now, if you're worried about using up all of your petroleum gas, what you could do is where you make your rocket fuel is you could put a limiter on this petroleum gas. You could put a pump here that says only enable this petroleum gas if the light oil or the petroleum gas is at a certain level. So only feed your rocket fuel if you only feed your solid fuel from petroleum gas if you have enough petroleum gas to satisfy the rest of the base. So that's the place to look. I found that essentially I'm using this column of petroleum gas based solid fuel as a dumping pot so that I don't get that lockup condition. Because